Hello again, everyone. My name is James Shotwell, and today we're going to talk about podcasts. Now, I know that you know what a podcast is. They've been around for years at this point, and they've been a constant topic of conversation. And if you're a fan of this channel, then you know that I often recommend musicians start one, or at least work on participating in more of them as they're able, because I think that they're a really good way to establish a relationship with your audience. Now, obviously, you want your music to do that. You want people to hear a song, relate to what you're singing about, and connect to it. But I think creating a podcast is a completely different avenue to accomplish a similar goal, and in fact can make people more interested in your music. I mean, after all, most podcasts give you insight into the person that is hosting them or appearing on them in a manner that no song can really replicate. It's a long amount of time, usually 30 minutes or an hour, maybe even 2 or 3 hours, where somebody is just talking about what's on their mind. They're sharing how they feel, why they feel that way, where they come from, where they hope to go, their hopes, their dreams, everything in between. And that forges a connection that no other medium right now is really able to duplicate. But I know a lot of musicians, and a lot of them are afraid to start a podcast because they don't need another thing on their plate. You know, they're already trying to write great songs, figure out how to promote themselves in a time when they can't tour. They're trying to figure out the best way to just be a musician in 2021. And the idea of having to create something new every week or every other week that lasts a relatively long amount of time in comparison to songs is just a lot to demand. And recently, there was a data point that came out that I think is going to make even more people cautious about starting a podcast. But again, I really want you to think twice about that. So according to a report from Chartable.com about the state of podcasting as we enter 2021, or as 2021 gets underway, in the year 2020, 17,000 new podcasts were launched every single week. That's 52 weeks times 17,000, and I don't know what that number is, but it is a lot, and that's intimidating. But let's put that into perspective. 17,000 new podcasts every single week, but those podcasts, almost all of them, if not all of them, are not your show. It's not about whatever it is you want it to be about. And if you're worried because that seems like such an overwhelming number, consider this. Spotify adds over 40,000 songs every single week, and that number has actually been growing since the report was initially made public in 2019. There are easily 50,000 or more songs added to Spotify every single week, and all of them are by artists that are not you, and yet you continue to make music. You continue to put yourself out there, you continue to express yourself creatively, and why is that? Well, the answer is simple. Because whatever everyone else is doing is not what you're doing. They may be telling similar stories, they're not telling your story. They may be getting across ideas that are similar to yours, but it's not exactly your perspective on things. And you feel as a creative person that there is still space for the thing that you want to do. And I want to encourage you to think the same way about podcasting. Because of those 17,000 podcasts that were started every single week, there's no real data on how many of them made it more than 1 or 2 episodes. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of them stopped shortly after launch. As a person that's been a guest on a lot of podcasts, sometimes you are the last guest and you're on episode 5. It's just how things tend to go. I mean, just like musical projects, people start them and they fall apart almost as fast as they began. But of the shows that remained, again, they're not your show. They're not sharing your voice. They're not sharing your story. They're not sharing your perspective on things. And while they may possibly be something that would appeal to your audience, they're not built-in fans like yours are. So if you're making music right now and there are people that love your music, I can guarantee you that they want to hear more from you. They want to know what makes you tick. They want to know what you're going through. They want to know what you're working on. They want to know how the new album's coming along, how the new single's coming along, whether or not you're going to do a live stream, when you think touring will come back, what your favorite meal is, what you make to eat on the road if you're able to cook while you're out there. All of those things your fans are curious about. And while some of those things you might be able to answer in a tweet or on Instagram or on Snapchat, I think a much better way to do that is through a podcast. And if you can do a video component or even an audio component that you cut into clips, it's possible to repurpose that content on all those other platforms. So you can make a weekly podcast, letting your fans into your world, and then cut it up into clips that you post on social media to pull people back to the podcast, which you can then use to build an audience. People may discover your podcast because a friend suggested to them who have never heard your music before, or maybe don't think that you're an artist that would appeal to them, and then they start listening to your podcast and they realize, oh, I have a lot more in common with this person than I thought. And so then they start listening to your music, then they're a fan of your music. Then they're listening to the podcast, they're listening to your music. You are everything that they listen to audio-wise, and that's a really great place to be, especially with competition as fierce as it is today. But I'll just say, like, when I read that number, 17,000 new podcasts every single week in 2020, that is absolutely insane, especially if you think that the average podcast is like 30 minutes to an hour long. That is a lot of listening time, and most of those shows aren't being listened to that much. But again, you're not most people, you're not most creatives. You have an audience. You have people that are already interested in how your mind works and the things that you think about and the way that you see the world. So why not expand on that? Make 2021 the year that you launch your own podcast. Let it be about the music that you create. Let it be about being an artist. Let it be about your pets. Make it about anything that interests you. Look at it as another way to express yourself that isn't necessarily possible through songs, or at least not the songs that you're making at this time, and embrace it with open arms. Do whatever you can to just engage your audience on a regular basis, and they'll support you. And when touring comes back, maybe the podcast goes on the shelf. Maybe it's too hard to do on the road, or maybe it's a way to keep in touch with your fans while on the road that helps sell additional tickets, because people are listening every single week, they hear that you're going to be in their hometown, and it gets them to buy a ticket that they didn't buy previously. There are so many perks to having a podcast and so few reasons to not do it, especially when you consider that platforms like Anchor.fm make it absolutely free to produce and share that podcast on dozens of platforms, all of the most popular ones, Spotify, Apple Music, all of those things. Anchor.fm is a way to do that for free. This isn't a sponsored ad, but I use it, all of my friends use it, and you should too. So don't worry about those numbers. Don't worry about the data and what it says about how many shows there are or how much listening time people spend every week. Just start making stuff. Just like music, keep making things, and your audience will find it, they will love it, and your connection with them will grow closer, which will help you have a longer lasting career in entertainment. Now, I know that we had this streak in January 2021 where we were posting videos every single day, and we've since taken a little bit of a break, but don't worry, I'll be back soon with even more content, more headlines, more trends, more information that you need to know to get ahead. So if you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button down below. It would mean so much to me, and you'll become a part of a community where everyone is trying to help everyone else get ahead, which is the best way to build a better music business, at least in my opinion. So if you agree, please click that button. And if you've already done so, then thank you for watching yet another video. Like I said, I'll be back soon, but until then, take care of yourselves, because you deserve it.